Hello, and welcome to a sort of long form tutorial on how to make your own custom Pokemon display card, where I'm going to walk through just about everything, the whole process from start to finish. If you have any questions, just post them in the comments and I'll answer. So the first step is to choose a Pokemon, and then I'll sort of show you what the final product is, and then we'll go from there. So here I have a list of all of the original 151 Pokemon. And we're going to shuffle the list a little bit just for good luck. Then we're going to spin and pick our Pokemon. Got Lapras. So you can kind of see some close-ups of what the final product looks like. You can see there's like holographic stars, the bubbles, everything. I'm going to walk through the whole process, and I'm going to go through all the materials that I use, and sort of you'll be able to see me create the card from scratch. Okay, so there's some required tools that you're going to have in order to complete a project like this. So the first one is going to be a Cricut cutting machine. There may be other options out there, but this is what I'm going to use for this video. Whatever version you have, it needs to support print then cut. So I'm not sure if the Cricut Joy supports that or not. So you may have to look into whatever version you have. You're going to need the fine point blade. So you're going to be cutting really small details. And I use the blue mat, the light grip. The next is going to be a color printer. It's got to support photo paper. You can use a different type of paper, but the quality won't be as good. It's got to have decent print quality. And I use an inkjet, but other options may work. Something you might also be able to do is save your files and then have them printed by like Staples or something. So that way you have like the best quality you can for pretty cheap. Another tool that is not technically required, but you're going to need something to pull your paper off of the mats. So I would recommend the Cricut tool set. You can either get the one for the Joy, which I think just comes with the 3 tools, or the full set, which comes with what you see on the screen there. The material that I use, so we're going to start with this holographic cardstock. This cardstock, I got it from Michael's. It's the Recollections brand. But you can probably find it on Amazon. Just search for holographic cardstock paper. The next thing is thin photo paper. So it just needs to be glossy photo paper, and this one is 36 pounds. That's the one I found on Amazon. And this is just because you don't want it to be super thick. The premium photo paper is really thick. The next thing I use is these sheets of holographic stars. It's basically a clear sheet of, I believe it's vinyl, and it just has these holographic stars on it. Those are honestly optional. If you don't like them, you don't need to put them on. But I put them on because I like the look of it. I think it looks more similar to the Gen 1 cards. And the last piece is this transparency film. This is basically projector paper. And I use paper that's compatible with an inkjet printer because I have an inkjet. The next thing I use just pretty standard a glue stick. This is the brand we have here. I believe I just got it from Staples. I like to use this one on the frame and on the back of the cardstock. So, like, you'll see it when I actually make it. But the benefit to this glue is it gives you a little bit more time to move it around, and it doesn't like bleed into the paper too much. Because if you use like a liquid glue on paper, it just kind of bubbles up and it doesn't look good. This item I use is the same brand, but it's a liquid version. And I use that for the transparency film because I find that the glue stick just doesn't quite cut it. The stuff is a bit stronger with the transparency film, the projector paper, and you can apply it really accurately with these little wood pegs or sticks. I don't know what you call them. You can just go on Amazon and look up like nail art wood sticks, and you'll find them. They're just, you can like dab at it. It's almost like a bigger toothpick. And last one I'm going to mention is some heavy duty cardstock. You can also use whatever you want: newspaper, flyers, cardboard. And I use this because my workspace is a cutting mat, but the glue will get all over the cutting mat, and it's not easy to get it off. So I would recommend you put some kind of paper or something down while you're gluing so that you don't get it all over the whatever surface you have. So we're going to start with the blank blue card here. As you can see, there's really nothing on it. I've removed all the symbols and the text at the bottom, and that's just for copyright purposes. You can find this frame on Etsy. The link will be in the description below. So what I have to basically do is sort of repair the spots that I've removed on this template. And to do that, I'll start with the symbol at the top. And what I'll do is basically select the area that I removed. So it's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. And then what we're going to do is just click Generative Fill. That's this little toolbar down here that pops up. So it's going to generate here. And if we look at the result, it's basically just gone. If we zoom out, you really can't tell. You'd have to really look for it, I think. And there's a few different versions of it. I can click those and see which one looks best. There's a little bit of discoloration here. So I'm going to try a different one. Still some discoloration. And there's still some discoloration here, but I like this one the best. So I'm going to try and fix it up a little bit. And the way that I'm going to fix that is to just select it. And we'll try the generative fill once more. Okay, so there's three options again. one's pretty good. It's not bad. I think in the grand scheme of things, it's really not noticeable because the card is going to be like this big, roughly. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. And then you'll have to select these layers, merge them. And then I'm going to turn my attention down here. This is going to be a little bit trickier, but it should be fine. So I'm basically just going to select it and just hit generative fill. And it'll do its thing. Okay, it basically disappeared. Let's zoom out a bit. That looks good to me. I'll merge these layers. And so what we have now is just a blank slate to start with. And from here, we'll just keep building and building on top of it. I've downloaded a symbol from Etsy. It's not the original, but it's close. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to paste it here. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball it here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of put it in place here. There we go. And if I zoom out, that symbol is now there. The next thing I want to create is the edition 1 symbol that should go around here somewhere. So I've created this little circle down at the under the frame here, and this is roughly the size of the original circle where there's like a little 1 in it. So now I have to create the text and change it black. So change it black, and then I'm going to add some text. Okay, so we just need the number 1, and I'm just going to reposition that and resize it. Alright, so now I just need to add some text that kind of goes around the circle. I'll be right back while I Google how to do that. Okay, that took way longer than it should have, but here it is. So the next part that I need to add is the fossil icon that would go around right about here somewhere. And to do that, I downloaded something from Etsy, which will be in the description. And I just sort of pulled this fossil icon out. And then I colored it all black, and I colored in those little highlights. Because this one has these little blank spots in it there. So I just took those out. And then I resized everything, and I added it just like that. For the next part, I'm going to start adding some text onto the card. I'm going to add all the text that goes at the top, so the name and then the HP. And I'm just going to kind of work my way down. Now, I've done some work in the past with just sort of testing before I recorded any of this. So I actually have some of the text stored, and I'm just going to kind of work with what I've already got. So I'll edit the text. You can see here I was working on Gengar. So I'm just going to kind of pull bits and pieces here and there and fill things in as needed. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to move on to the actual Pokemon and to the background. I'm going to do the Pokemon first because I have something kind of special in mind for the background. For the Pokemon, um, I went on Etsy and I found this, which looks like it'll be pretty easy for the cricket to cut out. So I'm going to use that and just kind of place it in the frame. All right, so I've got the Pokemon on the card now. Everything is ready to go except for the background. And this is the background that I've created for this card. It's going to try to mimic the Cosmo pattern. So once I get some reflective material behind this, it should shine through. And I'll walk you through that as well. But I'm going to show you how I made this background. This is a program called Paragraphic. I'll link that in the description of the video. This program will basically allow me to just create a bunch of random shapes in random patterns, and we're going to build the background just starting from scratch. So the first thing we want to do is set the background to all black. And the 800 by 600 size is just fine. What I am going to do is create a rectangle, and I'm going to set this to the size of a standard playing card, which I'm going to have to Google the size for it. Okay, so that's the size of a standard Pokemon card. It's 3.5 inches by 2.5 inches. I've just converted that to millimeters for this program. And so I'm going to draw another rectangle. And this is just going to be roughly the size of the background. So the part that's cut out on the card. So this is going to be one playing card, and the artboard, this whole black rectangle, is going to be the image that we're generating. So we're going to have a huge sample to choose from of what we think looks good. So if I find a spot, say like here, I can just sort of move the playing card there and select that spot. I'll show that later. So the first item I'm going to create is going to be the large circles. So I'm going to take a circle, hold shift, and just kind of add it to the board. And I'm going to set the size to 3 millimeters. Now it doesn't look like very much, but you know, if I were to move this over here, that's roughly how big it's going to be on the actual card. So I'm going to take the circle, I'm going to get rid of the border, the stroke around it, because we don't need that. And then I'm going to set the color to be a gradient. And I'm going to set the, so it's going to be black or white to black, and then I'm going to set the color to blue. So I'm going to actually pick the color from my other project here. So I'm going to click the color picker tool. Okay. Now if I zoom in on this, it might be hard to see, so I'll see if I can make it bigger for a sec. There. So it's sort of white to blue, and I want it to be more blue, so I'm going to drag the gradient over. And now I'm going to set this to repeat. And this is kind of the bread and butter of this program. So with that circle selected, I'm going to add a repeat area. So repeat area. And so you can sort of see now what this program is doing. I'm going to set the area to the same size as the artboard, which will be 800 by 600. And I want to set it to, I want the position to be 0, 0, so that it starts at the very top and the very left. So I'm going to change this to a hex grid. And I don't think it really matters what type of grid you use, but that's just the one that I picked. So I'm going to stick to it. And now I'm going to add another node. I'm going to do a group and randomize. So as you can see, there are now a bunch of different sizes of circles. And if you want to change the look of it, you can sort of mess around with the random seed. It gives you different patterns. And I'm going to add one more node. So group, randomize, and I'm going to randomize the offset. So now it just kind of puts the circles in a bunch of random places. So I'm going to go back to my base circle here and set it to 3 millimeters because I had blown it up so we could see what was happening. So once I do that, see they're all now small. And if I go down and zoom into the card, you can start to see what's going to be happening. I'm going to keep building on top of this, and then once I find something that looks cool, I'll sort of move the card onto a spot that looks cool. So I'm going to rename this one to circle area 3 millimeters. And I'm just going to copy paste. And I'm going to call this one 2 millimeters. And then I'm going to change the radius to 2 millimeters. And now I have to sort of change the randomization because right now it's just they're on top of the old ones. So I'll just click the this button to change the random seed. And we'll do the same for the scale. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, when it gets down to this smaller size, I'm not going to worry about a gradient, and instead I'm going to choose a few different colors to use to give it some variation. So the way I'm going to do that is change this back to a color. And then I'm going to click the little, I'm not sure what you call this, it's a little thing right beside the color. add input node, color from list. And so now I can choose 3 different colors. So I'm going to choose, I'm going to stay in the blues, but I'm going to stay very slight blue, almost white. And then I'm going to have maybe some darker blues as well. Oops. There. So we've got like 3 different shades there. And then the list item index, you're going to set to random. It might be hard to see what happened, but if I get rid of the first one, the big ones, we can see there's a bunch of different random colors throughout the background now. So it's picking from this list that we chose. And if you don't like the looks of it, you can just keep hitting the randomize button. So now what I want to do is to just further increase the randomness. I'm going to add another set of 2mm square circles. And same thing, I'm going to change the random seed. Change that and that. So now it just populates it a bit more. And I'll change the color slightly too. Maybe some brighter colors. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but for 1mm. So we'll change that to 1mm, and then we'll change all the random numbers. Okay, and now we want to add a whole bunch of tiny specks. So I'm going to copy this. We're going to set it to 0.5mm. And we're not going to worry about the random colors for the little specks. So I'm going to change this to just a solid color. And we'll make it pretty bright so they show up. And just call this 0.5mm. And I'm going to add a few of these, so this will just be number 1. And then we got to change the location. So randomize. Okay, and I'm going to copy paste this. And then I'm going to change the random settings. Okay, so now that I have all the specks and the circles, we're going to start increasing the amount of them. So I'm going to update the scaling here. I'm going to set this to 16 to increase the number of the larger circles. I'm going to vary things up and do 14 for this one and 12 for this one. For the 1mm, we'll do 12. And for the tiny specks, we'll do 11. And there we go. And so what I'm going to basically do is export this entire thing to Photoshop. Okay, so I have this image here in Photoshop, and I'm going to just copy paste it to the card. Okay, and then I'm just basically going to move this image around until I find a spot that I like. Okay, I like the way that looks right now. I took a look at the background, and it turns out I think the scaling got a little messed up. So I'm going to resize the background just to make it look a little better. I'm going to make it smaller just so I can have more bubbles and stuff in the background. Make it a little smaller. Okay, that looks pretty good now. So the next steps are going to be preparing this whole project for the cricket. And the first thing I have to do is address the corners of the card here. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an actual Pokemon card and use the back of it rather than printing out my own backing. So the corners have to match the cards that I have. And the frame that I got on Etsy, it's not quite perfect. So the way that I'm going to do that is I have this little rectangle that I made. So that one is too much corner. That's too sharp. And I have another one here that's sort of like just a little bit extra. And I believe, yeah, 33 pixels is pretty much perfect for the radius of the corners. So all I have to do now is set the color of the corner to match my frame. So I'll do that now. Okay, so now it's just kind of reinforcing that corner a little bit. Another thing I have to do is to make sure the background isn't showing. So if I get rid of some of this stuff, you'll see what I mean. So the background is still visible past the frame, so I have to sort of get rid of the extra. Now there's probably some smarter ways to do it, but I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. So this is the total size of the card. I'm going to convert this to, I'm going to rasterize this so it's not just a shape, it's actual just pixels now. And then I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to invert my selection. So now it's just the little extras that are selected now. I'm going to go to my background and I'm just going to hit delete. And nothing is going to happen. Why does nothing happen? Hello? Oh, okay. Apparently that works now. So I have, just from personal experience, I've tested out printing the different colors with my printer, and for whatever reason it has a really hard time with this yellow. So I have this like template of a slightly different yellow that my printer is much happier about. So what I'm going to have to do here is basically change the frame color to that new yellow, just because that's just how my printer is. So I'm going to grab the color. Okay, and then I'm going to fill this rectangle with that color. So it's just a little brighter now. And then I'm going to bring my frame into the focus, and I'm going to just fill the frame like that. So it looks a little weird. I'm not sure how it looks on YouTube. That's a little bit bright, but when my printer prints it out, it looks fine. So all that's left to do now is to merge the new border with the new frame. So I'm just going to select the little box here, and I'm going to remove that. I've got too many layers on the go here. So I've got the frame, and I've got the new corners / new frame. So I'm just going to merge those together. Okay. So if I put it all back together, that's what it looks like now. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the background up for the Cricut to print it. So I don't need any of this stuff. I don't need the frame. This is just the background. And this is a little bit too much. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring the frame back so I can select the center of the frame. Now I'm going to hide the frame. And then I'm going to select a good amount of extra stuff here. Say like that. Maybe even a little extra down below. something like that. And I'm just going to copy, paste in place, Control Shift V. Now I can just get rid of the background and I have basically exactly what I need. There's no point printing anything else except for the border. So I'm going to make a border now, and this is like thinking 10 steps ahead. This border is important later. So we'll just make one like this. Draw a rectangle. Move that up, and then kind of just resize it. So that should be the same size as my frame. I'm going to put that behind it. And then I'm going to create a copy of this rectangle and paste in place with Control Shift V. There we go. I'm going to make this blue. I'm going to put it in front, and then we're going to resize this a little bit to make it smaller. And I just want to kind of, it's a little finicky. Okay, that looks good. Go right to the edge. Now, I'm going to rasterize these so they become just pixels. I'm going to select the blue, select pixels, click on this one and hit delete. And I basically just created a cutout. So now this is what we have. And then I'm going to make the border black just because black ink is cheaper, at least for my printer. Okay, so it's a black background for this little border. And then you notice the background here, this is like transparent right now. We do need an actual color for the background other than just white. So you want to do like a slightly off gray, or off white rather, and just kind of fill the rest in. And this is pretty much perfect for what you want in order to properly work with the Cricut. Just a note from future me, I used the fill tool, which made the entire background gray. I wanted to leave those corners transparent, but I didn't catch this when I was working on the project, so I ended up just kind of riding with it. So don't do what I just did. Or if you do, erase those corners. The gray background I'll show you later, but if you don't have that gray background, the Cricut tries to cut the background out because it assumes that all the white is transparent. But doing it this way guarantees the Cricut will see it as one giant card. And so when I'm ready, I just go to File, Export, and I use the Quick Export as PNG. So that's the background, and that's the hardest part. The frame is a lot simpler. I'm just going to grab the text, symbols, the Pokemon, in the frame. And then I'm just going to get rid of the background. That's it. I'm going to export this as the PNG. So unlike the background, I actually want this background here. If I can select it, I want this background here to be transparent, so that way the Cricut will actually cut this frame out right there, so I can just pop it out, and then it will cut the Pokemon as well at the same time, so I can do both at once. And doing both at once makes it so that the scale stays perfect, so the Pokemon will be the correct size compared with the card. Okay, so I have the Cricut design space, design studio, whatever it's called. I have it open here. And I'm going to make a new project. Just be a blank canvas. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to upload those pictures now. Okay, so that looks good. I'm just going to do a flat graphic. I'm going to store that in my folder. And that's going to add it to the workspace. I now have to resize this, just because it's not like the perfect size. I'm going to undo the little lock icon here. And I'm going to put in a very specific number here. It's 6.295 for the width. And 8.78 for the height. Oh, whoops. 8.78, and then hit enter. So that, don't ask how I know. I don't want to talk about it. It took a long time, but those are the magic numbers to make like the perfect Pokemon card size. So I have that. I'm just going to copy, paste, and I'm going to take this whole thing, copy, paste. So I'll do 4 per sheet, and I want to make sure there's enough space between them. Just like that. I'm going to select them all, and then I'm going to hit attach. And that just makes sure that Cricut doesn't try to move them around. And that just makes sure that when it prints, it's in that exact shape. So I'm going to go to make. Your project will be saved. Save. I'm going to save it as Lapras background 2x2. Okay, so that's exactly what it's going to look like. Make sure my material size is correct. Continue. And now I'm going to send it to the printer. And I'm always going to add bleed. This will help the sides If you don't use the bleed, you might have like a white line on the side of your card or something. But the bleed gets rid of that. And then finally, use system dialog. I don't know what it is about the Cricut print, but it makes it so that it's slightly off. And when I go to actually put it into the Cricut, it cuts like to the side slightly. It's offset for some reason. So I always just use the system dialog. When I'm printing for the background, I'm using that clear acrylic or whatever. I always set it to photo paper glossy. That's just what my printer has as a default setting, and I just leave it standard quality. And I'm going to go print this now. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same thing for the frame and the Pokemon. Go to New Project, blank. I'm going to have to upload. Upload image. Okay. And so you'll notice that the checkerboard pattern there shows that it like removed the white background. So in the PNG it's transparent. So it's going to cut both the card and the Pokemon out in one go. I'm going to choose flat graphic. Okay. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use those magic numbers. Copy, paste. Copy, paste. And attach. And save it. And we're going to print it. So I'm using the thin photo paper. So I'm just going to set it to photo paper glossy. And standard quality for me is perfectly fine on my printer. Okay, and I'm going to go grab that. Here's the result for the frame. You'll have to forgive me for the state of my Cricut mats. It's been a little while since I cleaned them, but they still work right now. So I'm just gonna line it up as best as I can. And then I'm going to use a roller to flatten it out. And I always make sure I get the corners because those tend to get caught by the Cricut. So I'm going to take this over to the Cricut now. Okay, I don't really have a good setup for this yet, so I'll try to just hold the phone real steady. Okay, so the pieces are all cut out now. So I'm just going to kind of pull this paper away. Just nice and slow. And now I'm going to pull the frame away. And I use this little scraper tool for the cricket. So I'm just going to start at the corner. I'm going to push down pretty good into the mat to try and go underneath the corner. Okay. And I'm just going to very carefully sort of trace it around the edges. You just want to slowly lift it up without bending it too much. So there's the card frame. And now I'm going to peel the sort of the background area up. I'm going to do the same thing, but you don't have to be as careful because we're going to throw this part out. Just kind of get the corner and just kind of maneuver it slowly but carefully. Now the next part is a little tricky, especially when you have like a complicated Pokemon. Something like Raichu, for example, would be very difficult to do. But I have this little hook tool, and I'm going to use the very tip of the hook tool to try and get underneath the paper without damaging the actual Pokemon. And it's kind of just trial and error, to be honest. Oh, see, I already damaged that one a little bit. There. So once you're underneath the paper, you can kind of just trace it very carefully, and it'll pop up. Very slight damage on it. It might not even be visible, but I know it's there, unfortunately. So I'll try again. Just gently trace the outline of the card. And it should just slowly pop out. Now you might get lucky and you might be able to just pull the Pokemon straight up right from the background. We'll see if I can get lucky at this one. I think I did. Okay, sorry about that. My microphone cut out. So I got lucky with this one. I was able to kind of get behind it with the scraper tool. So I'm just very slowly and very carefully trying to kind of maneuver this thing. Oh no. Okay. So this one, I think, is basically perfect. So I'll keep that one for the final test, sort of the PSA 10 card, if you will. And going to do the exact same thing for the rest of the cards, so I'll just sort of speed run this. Alright, so now I have this kind of holographic star paper. So this will go over top just to give it some shine and some sparkles. So I'm going to actually use the Cricut to cut a shape out that's the same as the frame. And now, this is what we're going to do in the Cricut Studio, or the Create space, whatever you call it. I should probably know the name of this program, so give me 1 second. Cricut Design Space. Anyway. Oh, I see what happened. Yeah, it looks like it picked up a little bit of gray, so I should have got rid of that little gray on the corners. I'm not sure why I picked that up, but I probably filled the frame with this gray, but I should have only done it inside the rectangle. But yeah, I've already printed what I need, so I'm just going to sort of trim it when I need to. But for the stars, we're going to use the proper card size here. So I'll import it as a single layer. Do this, and then stars. Okay, now I'm going to use those magic numbers. Okay, and then we're going to turn this into just a basic cut. So I guess that's what it already is. And so that's just taking the shape. And we're going to use this shape to sort of cut the stars down. Now the stars are not a letter size, but just from past experience, I know that I can fit a few of these on here. So I'm just gonna add a bunch of them and see what happens. And I believe that was how many could fit, and I do not want to attach them. I don't want to hit attach because I want Cricut to realign this itself. So I'll go to make. Okay, material size, I'm going to set it to letter. It's not quite the right size, so this goes to 21 on the horizontal axis, and then it goes all the way down to almost 30 So we should be good with this. I am going to space those out just a little bit. You know what? I'm actually just going to leave it and see what happens. I'm going to do again, heavy cardstock, and I'll go cut that now. Okay, so I've got the printout here. This is why I was a little concerned about letting Cricut decide where things go. Just because my mat is not brand new, so it has some areas that are harder to stick down. And if you're too close to the edge, it can kind of lift the corner up. You can sort of see here, it was a very close call. It almost didn't cut properly. So usually I would sort of space them out a little more manually. Yeah, see, this corner didn't cut right. Not bad though, not bad. And so you can see with this one, it's actually got the proper rounded corners because I fixed the corners in the file. So, same thing, just gonna peel them up from this corner and then sort it to the side. These ones are extremely forgiving. Even if they do bend, it's a sticker, so you're going to be peeling it off anyway. But I do like to try to keep them straight. The last piece of the puzzle is this freaky looking paper. Yeah. And I'm basically just going to use the exact same project to cut this out. So I'm going to use heavy cardstock. Okay, so that's all done. I'm just gonna peel these off here. Perfect. Okay, I'm ready to put everything together now. I'm just cutting off the corners completely off screen here. Because I messed up those corners before when I didn't catch it. So I'm just trimming the corners off. We don't need them anyway. So now I'm applying some glue here. And I'm going to put the background on top of that shiny paper there. I find the liquid glue works best on the acrylic background, on the projector paper. And I'm just doing a sort of light around the edges. That's really all it needs. And I don't want any of the glue to show up on the background. And thankfully, with this glue, you can sort of reposition it after you put it down. It does kind of require a bit of force, but you can reposition it a little bit. So that's what it looks like now. And I'm putting it in the sort of frame that I made here. It's just to keep it at a straight angle there on the edge, so I can apply the stars. So I just need to align the corners, and then everything else will kind of fall into place. So you want to peel the corner and then just kind of fold that sticker paper down a little bit. Once you've peeled it, you kind of expose a little bit of it there. And you just kind of line up the edges of it. Make sure everything's straight. It definitely takes some practice, but once you get it, it's fine. And so now it's attached. I can kind of just manhandle it now. Smooth it out. And I'm going to use a ruler, sort of stuffed inside some sticker paper that I took the sticker off of. And I just want to kind of push that sticker down onto the card and slowly move the roller up so that there's no air bubbles. Again, that takes a little bit of practice. But that's looking pretty cool. I like the way that looks now. There's a little bit of sticker. It looks like I didn't quite get it aligned perfectly, but that's okay. I can just take a pair of scissors and kind of very carefully trim that plastic off that's overhanging. I got these scissors from Michael's. They're really nothing special. You just need a pair of sharp scissors. You kind of just glide the blade along the cardboard, or along the paper rather, and the plastic will just kind of peel off as you do that. Anything that's excess will just come right off. Now, you don't want to be doing this too much, because the more you handle the card, the rougher the outcome is going to be. But we still have the frame to put on it, and we still have the backing to put on it, so it should all work out. Just trimming the corners because of the little overhang. I'm just kind of checking it over for air bubbles and whatnot. Now I'm going to glue the actual Pokemon card onto the back. Now, if you wanted to, you could just make your own, which is probably what I'm going to do for future videos. I'm going to make my own back, something that's not copyrighted. So I put the glue on the back because that's a very like porous material, that cardstock on the back. And the actual Pokemon card is fairly slick, so you put it on both so it'll adhere better to both. And there you can see the card is starting to peel, is starting to curve a little bit. And so adding the Pokemon card on the back will sort of stabilize it. And using the glue stick, you get a lot of time to reposition everything. Now, it didn't come out perfectly. Sometimes the Cricut doesn't cut 100% to accurate. So I may need to tinker with those magic numbers a bit. So I'm doing a lot of stuff off camera here because I am amazing at making YouTube videos. So I think it's as good as I can get it there. Now I'm going to start like flattening it. I'm going to put a bunch of heavy stuff on top of it and just leave it for a minute or two. Okay, so now I'm ready to put the frame on. Okay, so I took a little bit of glue from the glue stick with the wooden peg, and I'm kind of just putting it on the corners because the corners like to come off really easily. And the glue stick is not the greatest glue, but it doesn't bleed through the paper, so that's why I use it. And I kind of give up on the wooden peg here and just switch to doing it manually. It's very difficult to get a little bit of glue on the edges of the frame because you don't want the glue to sort of seep out because it'll be visible. So there it is. I put a little too much glue on that. You definitely don't want to use a whole lot because it will, there's limits to what will bleed out and what won't bleed through. So I can reposition it a little bit. Now the card is curved a little bit too, so it's kind of tricky to get everything aligned properly. You really need to like flatten it out quickly, like I'm doing right now. Just putting some sticker paper down to protect the frame and putting something heavy on top of it. That all looks good. You can see, I definitely used a little bit too much glue, but that's okay. This is just for personal use, so. This part can be tricky, putting glue on the actual Pokemon. You might want to use like a wood peg or something. It's kind of up to you, but it doesn't need a whole lot of glue because it's going to go in a protective case anyway. But you definitely don't want it like moving around. And I just kind of eyeball it. I don't really have a great way to line things up. I just kind of go with what looks good. Okay. So I'm going to flatten this out a bit, and then I'm going to put it into a protective sleeve, and then I'll show you the results. All right, and this is the result. I'm sorry about the ring light there, but doing the best I can here. So you can see all the stars, those little bubbles, and they're kind of like holographic as you turn it. I think this came out really good. I'm really happy with the result. Right. A slightly better angle here. You can really see those stars come through. I love the black background with the holographic bubbles. All right, there's only one thing left to do here, and that's to pick the next Pokemon that I'm going to make. So we can officially remove this one here. And we'll hit shuffle a few times. And let's see which one we're doing. Ooh, coughing. That one's going to be cool. So let me know what you think. If you would have done something differently, or if you have any suggestions for like a new background. Thanks.